Kata for the sound of the bell. Mind calm, body at ease, breathing quiet, sentiment benevolent. Dharma friends, sitting still in vital silence, wanting nothing, we practice eco-Buddhism together. The sound of the temple bell booms for all to cease from conflict. May the way of Buddha usher in the dawn of non-violent global village forever. Here is the after sound of the bell. Thunder of silence, light after Dharma rain. Om Amoga Vairochana Mahamudra Manipadma Jivala Pravartaya
Please stand and join me in chanting of the three refuges. We take refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, first in Sino-Korean, honoring our lineage from the mountain monasteries of South Korea, and then in English. So you may not know the words, but just throw your voice in as a sound practice. So in preparation, let's first bring our attention to the soles of the feet, feeling very connected to the earth beneath us. And then join right and left sides of the body together in this gesture called hop jump, palm to palm. And just breathe and follow along. I go for refuge to the Buddha.
I go for refuge to the Buddha.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
I will cultivate a heart of enlightenment.
And realize the great way.
And realize the great way.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
I go for refuge to the Dharma.
And resolve with all beings.
And resolve with all beings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
I will penetrate the teachings.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
And uncover oceans of wisdom.
I go for refuge to the Sangha
I go for refuge to the Sangha
and resolve with all beings
and resolve with all beings.
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
I will seek peace and happiness for the many
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
and transform this world into Buddha lands unimpeded.
Please return to your places for another short period of meditation. During this period of meditation, just enjoy your presence within your body, focusing on the breath, counting of the breath, or body, whatever is your practice. Beginning with 3 foundation stones. In this very moment, nothing to worry about. In this very moment, nothing is lacking. In this very moment, always something to be grateful for. Please join me in some mindful stretching as an end to our meditation practice. And just being present in our bodies. Please sit comfortably. How's my volume? Hear me okay?
I don't think it's on.
Okay. Testing, testing.
Yep.
All right, thank you. So good morning, welcome in from the 10 Directions. It looks like we have some new faces today. I'm just curious how many people are here for the very first time. Thank you for making it through the gate. That is a barrier to a lot of people just coming through that gate. And we're happy to have you with us this morning. My name is Ma'um, and I'm one of the resident priests at this temple. I live in the historic temple, the yellow building next door. And today for our Dharma topic, I would like for us to explore the topic of commitment. This has been coming up in our breakfast discussions all week long, and we've had some interesting things to share about this. And so I would like to engage you in this conversation as well. So perhaps it has been coming up at breakfast a lot lately, because this is the time of year when in our temple, and maybe in many Buddhist temples, it's a time of retreats, it's a time of taking precepts, and it's a time of transitions. So we first had a long retreat at the end of June and the first part of July with people here from all of our temples. We have 5 temples. And so we were all here in this intense retreat for about a week or so, followed by a precept-taking ceremony. For those of you who are unfamiliar with precepts, this is the opportunity to make formal vows, to accept some moral guidelines, to embrace some guidelines as part of the Buddhist path. And we had some meetings talking about how our society functions. All of these are kinds of commitments. And then at the end of that, we took 140 people out to Camp Talaki and camped together for a week. And so that is like a huge commitment on the part of the organizers of the retreat. It was very impressive to watch this event come together and be pulled off. But it was also a deep commitment to Sangha, to building Sangha relationships, and it was quite beautiful. So I think for all these reasons, this topic of commitment is sort of on our minds these days. So let's just start with a definition. So this is a dictionary definition. Of course, there are many dictionaries, but I just chose this one. A commitment is an agreement, pledge, or promise to do something. It is also a willingness to give time, energy, financial resources to something you believe in. And the third sort of definition, it's something you must do that takes your time. So some examples of these. So an agreement or promise to do something in a way, each of you kind of has made a little mini commitment just by being here this morning, by giving us an hour and a half of your time to be together and to talk about Dharma. Other examples might it's the promise to keep the temple schedule, to do our daily practice. It's the promise to take precepts. So these are examples of agreements. The second piece of this is a willingness to give time, energy, or resources to something you believe in. So this could be something like climate change, that you're committed to mitigate climate change as best you can. Or it could be willingness to give yourself to relationships that you are fostering and feel are important. The third definition is something you must do that takes your time. And I think this is on our minds a lot, things that we must do. I hear this a lot. Too many commitments, too many things to do. So examples might be, if you have a child maybe changing diapers, well, kind of a commitment you have to make to keep that child comfortable. Or if you have a pet, or going to work, or going to class, going to a social event that you said you would promise to be there. So that's something you must do. So the interesting thing to me about these definitions is it's not so much about the promise itself, but it's about how do I show up when I'm making that promise or keeping that promise. And this, we talked about this quite a fair amount at our breakfast conversations this week. So some examples that we talked about are in relationships. Let's say that in principle, you have a commitment to be kind to everyone. But in reality, that's kind of a situational commitment. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't, depending on the person who shows up. Other examples, maybe you come to the temple and do volunteer work. But are you showing up because you want brownie points? Or are you showing up as an expression of some sort of commitment to the Sangha, commitment to deepening relationships? We also talked about commitments in terms of our pledges to the Dharma. One of our current residents is making a decision to lighten up on the commitments that he has made. Still very committed to keeping precepts, but maybe not so many precepts, because at this point in life, trying to keep so many promises was just kind of getting in the way of deepening the practice. Other commitments we examined this week, the question was asked, if you don't mind, one of our other priests asked Haju, now that you're kind of retiring, what are you doing with the rest of your life? Wow. I mean, that really makes you think about what commitments you have, what commitments that you choose to have. As I explored this topic of commitments, I ran across some information about the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. So now we're going to put a Buddhist frame of reference on this. So in the Tibetan tradition, there are 3 commitments that we make in our practice. So the first commitment is the Pratimoksha vow. Has anybody heard of that? You know what that is? So some interpretations of this are commitment to all of the precepts. And if you're a monk, this is 252 precepts or guidelines or rules. So you're kind of following the rules with this Pratimoksha vow. But the spirit of that, it gets back to the very first precept, not to harm, but to cherish all life. And so the commitment that we're making, the first Tibetan kind of commitment is not to harm. The second commitment is the Bodhisattva vow. In our Mahayana Buddhist traditions, we have bodhisattvas. These are archetypes of beings, archetypes of qualities that we want to cultivate. One example is Chichang Posal here, who is the bodhisattva who even goes through hell realms in order to help people. So just very, very focused on helping people. So the second commitment is to help others. So the first was not to harm. The second is to help others. And the third is called the Samyaya, Samaya, Samyaya. I think I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but anyway, that is to embrace life as it is, to take life on its own terms, rather than being tied up in judgments, wanting it to be other than it is. So keeping an open mind. So part of our discussion this week was looking at these three kinds of commitments and doing just a little reflection on, because they seem like good commitments, something actually that's kind of doable. Well, we were reflecting on which of these is, where do we run into challenges in working with these commitments or keeping these commitments? So for our resident who is backing off on the number of vows, is that first, that patimoksha vow that is sort of the sticking point, what he's working with at this point. And so if we go back and think about, well, what the commitment means in terms of non-harming, so each of us can probably think about harm to ourselves, harm to others, and how can we commit to that? So, one harm that I think is true for me, probably true for almost everybody here, is just not taking time to slow down, take care of myself. And when I do this, because I have a heart condition, it has some direct impacts, and I get into this irregular heartbeat. So in a way, that's kind of a little bit of a blessing to work on non-harming. Other ways of harming, I think I was not here for the Dharma talk, but I heard that Jago talked about speech and how we can harm others with our speech. So this is a vow that we can work with in that particular way. The second vow of helping others, I can think of examples of how I struggle with this, and maybe you can think of examples in your life. So, we have this schedule here at the temple, and newcomers are very curious. They want to come and see what is behind that gate, what's going on there. And so they may show up at a time that feels not very convenient because other things are going on. And so, I find myself getting a little resentful and probably short with people. And that's definitely not in the spirit of helping others. I remember when I came here for the first time, and somebody took the time to show me around and how much that meant to me. So I'm sure you have your own example of that. So the third commitment is accepting life on its own terms, allowing things to unfold as they will. I'm a planner. I'm kind of a control freak. Are any of you relate to that? Yeah. Okay. Well, this is just to sort of allow life to unfold without trying to impose that control or that judgment. And I think when we do that, it's an opportunity for curiosity. It's an opportunity for discovery. It's an opportunity for things to unfold very differently. Okay, so I'm going to give maybe just a couple other frames of reference. This talk's a little hard to focus because it is so broad. So I'm throwing out lots of different things for you to think about as you explore commitments. So one frame of reference is we can work with commitment to precepts. We can work with another is work with the 6 paramitas. Anybody familiar with those? So 6 paramitas are could you just say that? All of a sudden I can't remember.
I'll try. You guys can help me if I forget.
Okay.
Dana Paramita,
Yeah.
may I be generous and helpful. Shila Paramita, may I be pure and virtuous. Vishanti Paramita, may I be patient. May I be able to bear and forbear the wrongs of others. Virya Paramita, may I be strenuous, energetic, and persevering. Dhyana Paramita, may I practice meditation. No, is that right? May I practice meditation and be able to give, no, that's the wisdom.
Attain concentration and oneness.
And attain concentration and oneness. Thank you.
It's for all things.
To serve all beings. And then Prajna Paramita, that's the last one, right?
Yes.
May I gain wisdom and be able to give the benefit of my wisdom to others. Almost.
A little memory test for all of us. This is the richness of Dharma, is that we have so many different guidelines that we can call upon. Not to get stuck in them, but just to be able to have them available to help us with our commitments. One question that Brother Faku often asks is, am I free? Is this moving in the direction of freedom? Commitment's kind of a heavy word. And when I first started looking at this, I thought, bah humbug. It sounds very confining. It sounds like I'm being locked in. I'm losing my freedom because it sounds rigid, but it's not intended to be that way at all. Our Buddhist practice is about freedom, cultivating freedom. And so one of our breakfast conversations was about freedom from what? Freedom to what? Freedom with what? If we think about our practice in this way. So freedom from, one example that came up was fear. So freedom from fear. So I'm committed to actions that give me freedom from fear, freedom from judgment, freedom from other kinds of suffering. So you can think about commitment in that way. Reasons, and again, back to how we show up. So now talking about not just making the promise, but how do we keep that promise? So some strong motivations for trying to keep the promises are stability. We keep coming back to that again and again, some sort of constancy of purpose. Every day we do practice here at the temple 3 times a day. And so we persist at that, even though not every single time doesn't feel deep or rich, but it does offer this pillar of stability. And so not only for ourselves, but for anybody who shows up. So in that way, we become sort of trustworthy. So you show up at the temple and you know that we can trust that we're doing our best to keep the practice. So, okay, so then cultivating skills related to commitment. So the first is persistence. We've spoken about that already, so just do it. Do your meditation practice every day. Second might be cultivating awareness of what we are doing. This is the self-reflection that is part of our Buddhist practice, and it does take energy to engage in self-reflection on a regular kind of basis. Sometimes I just want to blow up and play and said, I'm tired of thinking about this. I just want to go have fun or whatever. Well, having fun may be part of the self-reflection too, that I need to have fun in that particular moment. But being aware, this is mindfulness, being aware of our actions, our words, what it is that we're doing, how we are relating to people, as part of the transformation process and part of our commitment as Buddhists to continue to engage in this sort of reflection, awareness practice. Just a couple more. Cultivating compassion. So this is noticing when judgment arises and remembering that three fingers are pointing back at me whenever I have a judgment about someone. So I think I've heard this saying, if you see it, you got it. And so this is recognizing that that other person is not so different than me. So I can have some compassion for the behavior that I'm observing because it's my behavior as well. And so I can have that sort of understanding. And I think part of cultivating compassion also is learning to be curious, to suspend judgment, to maybe ask, why did you say that? As opposed to, coming back with, you shouldn't have said that, kind of thing. And then maybe the last skill that we try to cultivate is gratitude. And we're reminded that the troublemakers in our lives, they show up just when we need them to. And it teaches us patience. It teaches us, points out the things that we need to work with. And also the gratitude of being in community, of having this Sangha, of cultivating the deep friendships that we have together, all part of our practice. So now that I have been sort of blabbering on in this expansive way, I want to ask a few questions of you. And you may not know the answer right now in this moment, you may not have a comment, but maybe you can go away and think about it throughout your day, throughout your week. So my first question is, what are you currently committed to in your life? So that's a pretty big question, but just take a moment and think. What is it? Is it these three commitments that we talked about? Not to harm, to help others, and to accept life on its own terms? Are you committed to relationship? Are you committed to seeking truth? So give that some thought or some reflection. And then the next question is, what's stopping you from fully living those commitments? And then the third question is, what capacities do you need to deepen your commitments? So what are your commitments? What's stopping you from working with those commitments? And what capacities do you need to work with them? So now it's time to pass the microphone. And if you don't want to address those great big questions, feel free just to comment on anything that we have been saying about this topic of commitment.
I used to fear commitments. When you were speaking of the word commitment and how it you brought up this sort of confining role that it can feel like it's imposing. I think for a lot of my life, I felt that way about commitments, that commitments were a must and that it wasn't necessarily a choice. And when I started looking at making commitments as not being a must in my life, but as a choice, when I hear the word choice, I hear freedom and I feel freedom. Knowing that I can choose to move in any direction and aligning my truths with the commitments that I choose to make. So I do choose to make commitments today to my job, to my community. I'm also in recovery, so I do service commitments to help support that community and my recovery. I made a commitment to take the precepts, and afterwards, without much thought, I continued with practice. So practice has become part of what I do, and it does not feel like a commitment. But I realize as I reflect, I do commit. And I realize that I do make commitments without even thinking of them as commitments today. And I have freedom in that. And for that, I'm grateful.
I'll go with it. As soon as Malone said commitment, the first thing I thought of was my sobriety. That was the first step. That's the one thing that nothing else can get in the way of. Nothing. And then the third question was, how can you deepen your commitment? I realized that the answer to the first and the third question were the same both ways. What deepens my sobriety is my practice. What deepens my practice is my sobriety. And I remember Haji and I had a brief discussion. It was said at the precept ceremony during the Dharma talk that the number one precept said it all. And I said that I understood the logic, but that I disagreed. For me, the fifth precept said it all, which is basically the avoidance of chemical poisons. Because if I don't keep the fifth precept, then I can't keep any of the other precepts.
My commitment's been pretty simple. It's only the words doing what I don't have to do.
I don't.
I appreciate that the introduction to this topic acknowledged how heavy and laden the word commitment is. And one of the things that has given me relief is, I think it's a therapist that told me, he said, should is actually could, but without the courage. And yeah, I know, right? And that relieves me of the shoulds. That commitment is courageous and it is a choice. Thank you for the talk.
I've used the past 9 months or so as a time of reflection and have kind of been quite isolated from other people. And I'm finally healed enough and ready to make the commitment to reaching out to others and joining communities.
My most difficult challenge is respectfully ending a commitment.
Last night I emailed Hayun and committed to being part of the family program this school year. And I also recently made a commitment to get rid of some of my lawn and put in native plants.
I struggle with fear about opening my heart to certain commitments. Like I was a nurse in the hospital for a while, and it really hurt my heart, and maybe something I'm still dealing with. And moving to a new type of medicine, and realizing that it is not the same, and I am safe to make this commitment again is really, really scary. And you know,
I struggle with making commitments that I feel like I should make, and then struggle keeping them, making the commitment, and keeping the commitment.
I've been practicing the third, accepting life exactly as it is, life on life's terms. And one example of this is, since pre-pandemic, my neighbor and I have been trying to get a school garden going at my son's elementary school. We applied for a grant, we got the grant money, but somehow it's just very difficult to get lots of people on board and make it happen. And my motivation alone doesn't seem to make it materialize. But I remain committed to being there when the conditions are right. Go for it. A vegetable garden. We have a native plant garden, but anyways, it's much slower than I thought it might be. And so I just have to accept the process will unfold as it unfolds.
I think I have a challenge with sometimes overcommitting. So committing and not always thoughtfully or intentionally. And I'm realizing going into the school year that if I want the school year to go better for my daughter and our family, I probably need to think more thoughtfully about what commitments I make. And in this case, I think shifting more towards making the commitment that our families are scheduling, functioning, that we're all on the same page with the same goal and intention in mind. And that sometimes that might mean thoughtfully ending other commitments.
Hello, this is my first time here, and for 2 years, something. My partner always asks me if I wanna come to here, and we have something to do, or school was too busy, or it was too cold, and we didn't have a car, and we live far. We always find so many things. And today is her birthday, and then she was like, I really want to go for my birthday. And my commitment was like, okay, I want to go. That's my way to share like your day. So I feel happy that I had that topic today. We're talking, and I feel that I complete that commitment that we came here.
Happy birthday. I'll share. When you were talking, Mom, I was I can't remember what you said exactly, but I started thinking about what is it that helps me keep my commitments, I guess. And actually the example that came to mind is sometimes at home when I'm really not being kind, or I'm being a little sharp with my partner, he will sometimes call me by my Buddhist name, not my street name. And let me tell you, that really reminds you of your commitments and the ways in which you might not be meeting them in that particular moment. In a very sweet way. So, well, what do you think Jocko would say about that? So then I was like, well, why does that work so well? And I mean, obviously there's a little bit of like, oof. But I think one of the things that happens when you get a Buddhist name, it's not just the precept commitment and the practice that you're doing, but it's like this kind of magic where over time it invites you to become this Dharma person. Like, I now have this opportunity to be in the world in a different way that maybe is less constrained by some of my other habits, sort of like this higher aspiration. And so I think that little detail of actually having the opportunity to be this Dharma person helps me keep my commitments. So.
Thank you very much for your stories. That was a good Dharma talk you all just gave. I appreciate it. And so I'm wondering, because I live at the temple and I always go by Mount Moon, what would happen if somebody said, well, what would Gloria do? Interesting to think about. Okay, we'll close with the 4 great vows and then have some announcements and maybe a little work practice together. So please repeat after me.
Talk about commitments. These are some commitments right here.
These are some big ones. All beings, one body.
All beings, one body.
I vow to liberate.
I vow to liberate.
Blind passions, one root.
Blind passions, one root.
I vow to terminate.
I vow to terminate.
Dharma gates, one mind.
Dharma gates, one mind.
I vow to penetrate.
I vow to penetrate.
The great way of Buddha.
The great way of Buddha.
I vow to realize.
I vow to realize.
Good morning. Welcome to the Ann Arbor Zen Buddhist Temple, especially to those of you who might be here for the very first time. We just have a couple of brief announcements. Actually, we have a lot of announcements. Because when September is starting, a lot of our programs will be restarting. Namely, our family services will start September 10th, and those will typically be the second Sunday of every month. So if you have any children in your life who you think might want to learn a little bit about Buddhism while doing some fun crafts or activities, bring them along. I think it's a grand old time. Our yoga classes are Tuesday evenings from 6:30 to 8. That is going to be a 6-week session, which will start September 5th. There's a sign-up sheet for almost all of the things that I'm about to tell you about on the table in the foyer. We will be offering an introductory meditation course. That will be Thursday evenings from 6:30 to 8:30.
There's going to be a 5-week session starting September 7th, or there's going to be an overnight session through the night into the morning. You do get to sleep, and you get breakfast. That will be September 15th through the morning of the 16th. Ulambana Day is coming up, which is an important ceremony in which we honor people who have passed away. Jagwa, do you want to say something about that?
So this is a special service that we hold once a year, and traditionally it is honoring someone who may have died, like an ancestor, parent, or loved one. It can also honor someone who you may be estranged from or have some type of core difficulty in your relationship, and you have no other way of communicating with them. So this will be on Sunday, August 27th, right after this regular morning service, so from noon until about 1:15 or so. There is some preparation involved before the ritual, and so if you're interested in participating, you can just see me after the service, and I'll let you know more about it.
We have absolute plethora of study groups. Our BIPOC study group meets Saturdays at 3 p.m. Recovery Dharma will be meeting today. Yes?
Recovery Dharma will be meeting in the historic building next door at 12 o'clock today from 12 to 1.
All right. And I'm just reading off the little flyer we have. You can feel free to take one there on the table out there, or if you want to really keep abreast of Temple news, you can sign up for our email bulletin. Lastly, the temple is supported by your kind donations of time and money. I think Haju will probably have a way to donate time. Yes? Is there garden practice
Yes.
today?
Yes, and people can meet outside of our village in about 15 minutes after the service closes.
15 minutes at the bell
We
shed.
need one bed together. It's a pretty big one.
And there's also a fishbowl outside for monetary donations. Have I missed anything? All right, thank you.
So please stand and we'll close with 3 final vows. And feeling the connection of our feet with the earth beneath us. And just breathing and appreciating the joy of Sangha, this time that we've had together. Please leave the mats and cushions where they are this week. And then join us in the lobby for some conversation.